The Russian Grandmother's Wondertales. Chapter 4. The Fire of Shavings. The snow had fallen heavily, and some of the sheep were missing. The two peasants put on their warm sheepskin clothes and went to look for them, taking Watch, the sheepdog, with them. The starosta sat in the house, making a plow handle out of a tree branch which he had cut down one day long ago, because he saw it was the right shape for a plow handle in case he should ever need a new one. The little boy gathered up the shavings that fell from under the long two-handled knife. He played with them until he was tired of them, and then he gathered them all in the skirt of his shirt and carried them to his grandmother's room. "I have brought you some shavings to make you warm, grandmother," he said. His grandmother opened the stove door, where the fire was smoldering, carefully covered up, for fuel is dear. The little boy put the shavings in, one by one, and watched them as they slowly caught fire and broke into a blaze. When they were all burnt up, he went and stood by his grandmother. "Did they make you warm, little grandma?" he asked. "Nice and warm," answered the grandmother. "Now what can I do for you in thanks?" "A story, a story," cried the little boy, climbing upon the stove to be comfortable. And the grandmother told the story of the bear, the boar, and the fox. A bear, a boar, and a fox once went into partnership to till a field and raise some wheat, that they might earn their bread honestly. Said the boar, "I will break into the granary and steal the seed, and with my snout I will plow up the field." "I will be the sower," said the bear, and Renegade added, "I will spread the earth over the seed with my tail." So the field was plowed and the seed sown. By and by came harvest time, and the friends took counsel together as to the reaping. Said the boar, "I will cut the grain." Said the bear, "I will bind the sheaves." And the fox said, "I will glean the scattered ears." The grain was cut and the sheaves set up. The next thing was the threshing. Said the boar, "I will provide the threshing floor." "I will carry the sheaves," said the bear, "and will do the threshing into the bargain." "I'll shake out the sheaves," said the boar, "and break off the ears from the stalks." "I will clear away the chaff with my tail," said the fox. "I will winnow the grain," said the boar, "and separate the straw from the wheat." And Gossip Pets added, "And I will attend to the dividing." And so the grain was threshed. Next came the bear to do the dividing, but he was neither fair nor honest, for he gave the boar all the straw and kept all the grain himself, not leaving the least thing for the fox. At this, Renegade flew into a rage and threatened them both with the law, saying he would bring the emperor's officer to divide it all fairly and squarely. Away he went for the officer, leaving the boar and the bear greatly terrified. Said Master Pets to the boar, "Just bury yourself in the straw, my child, while I clamber up into yonder pear tree." The boar at once vanished under the straw, while the bear scrambled up into the pear tree. Meanwhile, Renegade set out, and on the way he met a cat, whom he invited to come and hunt mice with him upon a certain threshing floor. The cat gladly accepted the invitation, for she full well knew that there are plenty of mice in a threshing floor. But on the way, she kept hunting birds in the bushes along the roadside. The bear, who was watching from the pear tree, espied her from afar and called down to the boar, "We are in a pretty scrape, dear boar, for here comes Master Renegade and a fearful monster with him. He wears the fur coat of a marten and is killing birds upon the wing all along the way." By this time, the bear lost sight of the cat, which had reached the threshing floor under cover of the grass, and was creeping about in the straw in search of mice. Full of curiosity, the boar stuck his head out a little way to see what was going on, when the cat, mistaking his snout for a mouse, sprang forward and buried her claws in it. At this, the boar gave a fearful grunt and rushed frantically into a neighboring stream, while the bear, who from the uproar concluded that the cat had killed the boar and would seize him next, tumbled headlong from the pear tree in terror, and breaking his neck by the fall, perished miserably. So Master Renegade got all the grain and the straw into the bargain. "I am glad he got it all," said the little boy. "It wasn't fair of Pets and the boar to serve Renegade that way." "Master Renegade is generally able to look out for himself," said the grandmother. Chapter 5. Frostbitten Toes. There was a great shouting and hurrahing in the court, for the peasants had found the sheep and were driving them home. The little boy ran out to see them come in. They were trembling with cold and looked very weak, for they had had nothing to eat for 2 days. They had been buried under the snow, and it had taken all that time to find them. They were glad to go into their pen, and the little boy was glad when his father gave him a pail with food in it and let him help the peasants feed them. The cowherd woman came to watch. "You should not have come out here in bare feet," she said to the little boy. "Where are your bushmaki?" "Your feet are bare," replied the little boy. "I am old and am used to it," said the cowherd woman. "You will freeze your toes." When the sheep were all fed, the little boy's toes began to ache, and he ran into the house. "Keep away from the fire," said his eldest sister, who was weaving at the loom in the corner. "If you go near the fire, your toes will sting." The little boy's toes were stinging already, and he began to cry. "Run away to grandmother," said the eldest sister. "She will warm your toes with her hands." The grandmother heard the little boy crying, and she came to the door to see what was the matter, for it makes a grandmother's heart ache to hear a child's cries. When she saw the bare toes, white with cold, she gathered the little boy in her arms and carried him to her room. There she sat down, far away from the fire, took the cold feet in her hands and rubbed them to make them warm. Then the little boy stopped crying. "They are warm now," he said, "but I don't want to get down. It is nice in your lap." "You may sit here while I tell you a story," said the grandmother. "Then you must get down, for I haven't finished my stint of spinning." "I will," said the little boy, and the grandmother told him the story of the man, the hare, the fox, and the bear. Not far from a hare's form, a bear once had her den, and Master Lamp often gave himself the treat of visiting the den in Pets's absence and teasing the little Petses. "You dear little birds," he would say, "do let me hear your enchanting songs." And he would spit at them and make all manner of game of them into the bargain. Whenever Mrs. Pets came home, the young ones would bitterly complain how the little hare had been there making game of them. At this, old Pets waxed very angry and growled, "Just wait once. Wait, Master Lamp. I'll catch you yet and fling you into a hole." So Mrs. Pets hid herself in the back of the den, and sure enough, along came Master Lamp and began to tease the young bears. No sooner did Mrs. Pets hear him than she sprang upon him from her hiding place. But, quick as lightning, Lamp was off in the woods, with Mrs. Pets after him. Lamp fled through the bush and briar, Pets always close upon his heels. At last, Lamp sprang through a cloven tree, and Pets followed him. Unluckily, she stuck fast in the narrow cleft, and do what she would, she could not escape from her prison. Presently, a man came along, and Mrs. Pets implored him thus, "Ah, man, do set me free. I know where there is a hollow tree full of honey in the forest. You could bring a great cask and fill it as full as you like." "Are you telling the honest truth?" asked the man. "The honest truth," replied Mrs. Pets. "I can make you rich in honey, and all I have to say is to give you this warning. Never, if you love your own life, do you tell a living soul how a miserable little hare made a fool of a strong she-bear." The man promised her, trust and true, and lifting his axe, he struck a blow at the cloven tree. The tree fell apart. Pets was again free, and she at once led the man to the honey tree. The man returned home, yoked up his oxen, put a cask in the cart, and went to the wood for the honey. When he had filled the cask, he returned home. Meantime, it had grown dark, and Pets crept noiselessly behind the cart and crouched down under the peasant's window, saying to herself, "Just wait, you fellow, till I listen a little." The man brought the cask of honey into the house, and the children, seeing the prize, crowded around the father with questions. "Oh, little father, where did you get that honey?" "I found it in the forest, dear children." Then the wife put in her word. "Tell me, father, how did you come by so much honey?" And the man replied, "Oh, don't bother me. It was an old trotter of a bear that was chasing a little hare and got stuck fast in the cleft of a tree. Then I came along and helped her out of the scrape. And for thanks, she showed me the hollow tree where the honey was, so I brought it home." But it served her right, the lazy old fat tramper. What business has she chasing a hare? Mrs. Pets did not lose a word of all this, and she growled to herself, "Just wait once. Wait. I'll be even with you, with a vengeance for jeering at me." She went away home, and presently the man, wife, and children all went to bed. Early next morning, the man got up and went out to till his field. He yoked his oxen, filled a sack with grain, put it and a plough into the cart, and with a "Gee up, you oxen," set out for his field, which lay on the edge of the forest. He was just about to begin ploughing when Mrs. Pets came along. "Oh ho, cousin, so there you are. Didn't you promise me, trust and true, not to say a word to mortal soul of what had happened to me? And didn't you go home and tell the whole story to your wife and children, eh?" But the man replied, "Friend, what an idea! I haven't said a word to anyone." "Silence," interrupted the bear. "I was listening under your window." Then the man thought to himself, "Well, the cat is out of the bag, sure enough. She knows the whole story. And now," said Mrs. Pets, "it is all up with you." Now little Master Renegade was listening to all this, and he rustled in the bushes with his tail and cried, "Man, man, wit in the head and a club in the hand." For in fact, the peasant had a mighty ox-goad in his hand, and he stood there, quaking with fear of the enraged she-bear, and trying to contrive how he should get out of the scrape. Renegade never stopped crying, "Man, man, wit in the head and a club in the hand." At this, a bright thought struck the man, and he resolved to try his luck. So he poured the grain from his sack upon the ground and said to Pets, "I am a pious Christian and have not yet prepared for death, either by confession or penance. So do you, Mrs. Pets, step into this sack, and as penance for all my sins, I will carry you around the field, heavy as you are. When I have gone around the field 2 or 3 times with you on my back, you may do with me what you like." "Gracious heaven," cried Mrs. Pets, "how high I shall hold my head when people say that a man carried me around upon his shoulders." But scarcely had she crawled into the sack when the man tied it up tight and belabored her head with his ox-goad until she gave up the ghost. Then Renegade stepped up to the man and asked, "And what am I to get, man, for the good counsel I gave you?" "What shall I give you?" asked the man. "Will you have geese?" "No." "Ducks?" "No." "Hens?" "No." "Then what the mischief do you want?" "I want to bite off your nose." At this, the man thought to himself, "What the dickens? How should I look going around without a nose?" Cold sweat broke all over him, and he cried aloud in agony. Renegade heard him and said, "Oh-ho, what does this mean?" The man gave a second and a third cry. It startled the master, and he said, "Now what's all this about?" "Oh, nothing," replied the man. "Only last evening I fed 9 hunting dogs, and they are trying with all their might to get out." But Renegade interrupted him. "The cuckoo takes your nose, and all the rest of you. Only don't let your hunting dogs come out here until I have put my hide in safety." And away he went, across lots and out of sight. So the man saved his nose, and full of joy he went home that night, carrying pets with him. "Master Renegade wasn't so clever that time," said the little boy. "He is not always clever," said the grandmother, "but he was very clever when he took revenge on Isegrim." "Oh, tell me that, cried the little boy. "Not now," said the grandmother. "Did I not tell you that I had not done my stint of spinning? Come this evening after supper and I will tell you. Now run away home." End of chapter 5. Please go to the next video for chapter 6.